Joe Biden finally picks his running mate, and unlikely candidates come in to offer their congratulations. Ron Johnson and Christopher Wray go back and forth over what happened with the Steele dossier. Ghislaine Maxwell is possibly taken off suicide watch and possibly goes back into general population. And the stock market may have set another record, but not the kind of record you may think. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, in the light of everything that happened this past week, I was very excited to see. Oops, we've got live chat up over here. Give me 1 second here, folks. All right, so I have no idea how much of that you guys heard because I just realized my mic was down as well. So, this is off to a great start off in the morning here. So, anyway, we're going to get into the news of the day. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We have got the Freckles and Brit Show has just come back. We've got the Generational Gap. We've got Stephen Ignoramus and his mini shows. We also have the R-Rated Conservative and the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. So come on over and check us out over there. Pick up a little bit of our swag and try and help us support great creators like the ones that I mentioned above. Come on over and check us out. We'd love to have you over there. All right, starting out with the day, we're going to look over at the stocks here, and just looking at the chart here, there was a pretty sharp drop off of a very, very good day. We crested and got almost up to 29,000 once again, which means we are just within eyeshot of grabbing onto that record once again. After the economy just dumped itself off, we are within eyeshot of seeing that record again. But then we kind of dropped off at the end, and I don't know if anybody has put two and two together on this. We'll see when we talk about the investors, but this was just about the time that Joe Biden was making this announcement, and we started to see that Kamala is going to be the one. The point that we had the drop off was just about that particular time. So, does that have something to do with it? Maybe. We don't know. I think it does. I really do think that it does have something to do with it. So we'll have a look at what's going on around the markets and what's going on with that here. From Investors Business Daily, we will start. Dow Jones futures rise after stock market sell-off. Tesla spikes on stock split. Moderna on vaccine deal from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures rose solidly early Wednesday, along with S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq futures. After the coronavirus stock market rally sold off into the close with Apple and other techs retreating. Meanwhile, Tesla jumped overnight after announcing a 5-for-1 stock split. Moderna spiked on a U.S. coronavirus vaccine dose deal with the U.S. government. Spotify rebounded from its 50-day and 10-week moving averages Tuesday, but looked less impressive by the close as the major indices sold off. Zoom Video Communications, which looked like it was rebounding from those key levels on Monday, plunged decisively below them Tuesday. It's a tricky time for the stock market rally as the Dow Jones and S&P 500 try to catch up to the Nasdaq without the latter falling down. Coronavirus vaccine progress and declining new COVID-19 cases are good news for real economy stocks. Well, many coronavirus plays like Zoom stock or video stock and other tech high flyers are taking a breather. It's not clear what sparked the late afternoon retreat, though there was one possible culprit. China smartphone sales are off to a surprisingly negative start in the current quarter, according to Everscore ISI, reflecting significant deterioration. That's a bad sign for Apple, tech companies broadly, and the world's number 2 economy. Apple stock fell 3%, mostly after the Evercore report, while Apple stock chart looks fine. It spurred selling in the Dow Jones, S&P 500 index, and Nasdaq Composite. Meanwhile, several leading stocks sought to support at their 50-day and 10-week moving average. When it works, it looks obvious in hindsight, but at the time, it can be tricky to buy a stock, mostly rebounding from key support with the major averages coming under pressure at risk of rolling over. Zoom Video stock looked okay Monday, but was a big loser Tuesday. As techs kept falling, Spotify closed higher Tuesday, while several would-be rebounds fizzled entirely. After the close, Tesla said it would split its stock 5-for-1. Stock splits have been out of favor for decades as investors recognize that 4 shares of a $25 stock are the same as 1 share of a $100 stock. Fractional share trading is increasingly common as well, but the wave of new investors on Robinhood and elsewhere may see cheaper stocks as better. Apple recently announced a 4-for-1 stock split after its earnings report, and its share price is far below Tesla's. At the time, there was some speculation, but the iPhone maker was doing so to placate Dow Jones with the DJIA, a price-weighted index. Tesla stock jumped 7% in overnight trade. In Tuesday's session, Tesla stock sold off after Chinese EV data showed decline in July sales versus June, while rivals gained ground. Apple is on IBD leaderboard along with Tesla. Spotify stock is on IBD swing trader. And for the futures, Dow Jones futures rose 1% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.8%. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.9%. Tesla is giving NASDAQ 100 futures a boost, while mega caps Apple and Microsoft are giving modest lifts to the S&P 500 and Dow futures as well. Gold futures continue to slide overnight. Yeah, people are going back and looking to have their real stocks, which will actually grow, and some of them are keeping their gold, but it does look like they're going to be holding off and going back into stuff that actually has an industry behind it, because it appears that industry may be in a place to open back up. Shortly after Tuesday's stock market closed, the Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden, picked California Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate, as expected. Biden currently leads President Donald Trump in the polls. Chinese internet giant Tencent easily beat earnings views early Wednesday, revenue up 29% to 114.88 billion yuan, or approximately $16.53 billion, the fastest pace in 2 years. Excuse me a second. Online game revenue leapt 40%, but Tencent earnings are overshadowed by President Trump's executive order last week barring any transaction with the company's WeChat messaging app starting in September. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, I may have been wrong off of that because I'm looking at this through Central Time here, and I thought that it was earlier that he picked Kamala Harris, but yes, it had to have been. Because all my coworkers were up there. No, he didn't do this after the market closed. So that is slightly wrong off of this one. He did this before the market closed because of the coworkers that were still at work at the time when they did that. So, no, that is just about the time that he announced that started dropping off. That's something to watch. But let's move on and see a dissenting argument to this here from CNBC. S&P 500 closes lower for the first time in 8 days as tech shares drop. From Fred Imbert and Yoon Lee. The S&P 500 fell on Tuesday, snapping a 7-day winning streak as decline in some major tech names escalated at the end of the trading day. The broader market flirted with a new all-time high before the late-day sell-off. The index closed 0.8% lower at 3333.69 for its worst day since July 23rd. Earlier in the day, it was up as much as 0.6% and traded within 0.5% of its February 19th intraday record of 3393.52. The Nasdaq lagged, falling 1.7% to 10,782.82. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gave back a rally of more than 300 points to close down 104.53 points or 0.4% at 27,686.91. Facebook and Amazon each fell more than 2%, along with Microsoft, Apple, and Netflix were down 3.4% and 3% respectively. Alphabet dipped 1.1%. Those losses offset gains from shares that benefit from the economy reopening. Gap shares were up more than 2%, and Norwegian Cruise Lines advanced 3.4%. Wynn Resorts and Simon Property also closed higher. Both the S&P 500 and Dow traded higher earlier in the day after local news agencies reported Russia President Vladimir Putin claimed the country had given a regulatory approval for the world's first COVID-19 vaccine. While there was skepticism about whether Russia had developed a safe vaccine so quickly, the news triggered optimism from investors about the race for an inoculation and perhaps that the market isn't pricing in how quickly a valid one could be ready. A Johnson & Johnson executive told Reuters that the company could produce 1 billion doses of its vaccine candidate if it proves to be successful. So they looked across the entire day for the coronavirus vaccine and the fact that cases are dropping right now, and then they went back out here and saw that Kamala Harris was nominated, and then it all dropped back off, and now they're trying to blame it on Apple stock. So that's what we're seeing up here out of the stock market. Possibly see something good coming up out of the day. It doesn't look like the futures were doing too good, but now that everybody's accepted the news that we're going to have a police officer as a potential president, maybe we'll see something come higher again. Let's get up into the news here. Speaking of the cop being the president, from NBC News, and I want to thank you once again, everybody who popped in last night for the Ed Talk here. Now we're actually going to talk about the news and the headlines that go along with this here. So starting off, Kamala Harris named by Joe Biden as his VP pick. By Adam Edelman, Deepa Shivaram, and Kristen Welker. Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris, the prominent senator from California, whose political career has included "Who'd you talk to?" many barrier-breaking moments as his running mate. His campaign announced on Tuesday the decision came more than a year after Harris, who was also 2020 Democratic candidate, clashed with Biden over racial issues during the first primary debate. If elected, she would be the nation's first female, first black, and first Asian American vice president. Picking Harris, who is 55, provides the ticket with some generational diversity. Biden, 77, would be the oldest president-elect in U.S. history. So would Trump, by the way, just so you know. The announcement from Biden, which campaign aide told NBC News, came about 90 minutes after he called Harris to tell her, caps weeks of speculation in Biden's biggest decision to date as the presumptive Democratic nominee, a detail Biden himself noted in his announcement. "You make a lot of important decisions as president, but the first one is who you select to be your vice president. I've decided that Kamala Harris is the best person to help me take the fight to Donald Trump and Mike Pence, and that to lead this nation starting in January 2021. Biden wrote in an email from his campaign to his supporters. A staffer wrote in an email to his campaign and supporters. Let me correct the record for that, NBC News. "I need someone working alongside me who's smart, tough, and ready to lead. Kamala is that person," he wrote. "I need someone who understands the pain of hairy legs and learning what roaches is so late in the summer. That so many people in our nation are suffering, whether they lost their job, their business, a loved one, to the virus. This president says he doesn't want to be distracted by it. He doesn't understand that taking care of the people of this nation, all the people, isn't a distraction. It's a job," Biden continued. "Kamala understands that, and I need someone who understands that we are in a battle for the soul of this nation. And that if we're going to go through these crises, then we need to come together and unite for a better America. Kamala gets that." Harris, in a tweet, says she was honored to join Joe Biden as our party's nominee for the vice president and to do what it takes to make him our commander-in-chief. Biden and Harris will appear together and speak in Biden's hometown of Wilmington, Delaware on Wednesday, the campaign said. Harris, the only black woman in the U.S. Senate, was elected in 2016 after serving as California's AG and before that San Francisco District Attorney, where she put numerous people into prison for smoking a joint and simple possession of drugs, and withheld evidence of good behavior to keep them in prison for as long as possible. And as Nephilim Ninja pointed out last night, use those people in prison to fight the wildfires. That was a pretty damning statement, and if it's true, I cannot verify that right now, but if I can find a verification for this, that is going to be something I talk about every day until the election. If she actually did that and pulled people out to go and fight the wildfires from prison. Prison slavery. No. We're not going to do that. We are not going to do that at a national level. Fuck that. So, that's what we saw here. That's what NBC has to say about this, and there's so much going on to this. The attack ads write themselves at this point, and we talked about that a little bit too last night. The fact of the matter is Biden wrote the tough on crime bill, and Kamala Harris is one of the toughest on crime people, and the tough on crime bill was what made Kamala able to be as tough on crime as she was in a time where ACAB is trending all over the place. All cops are bastards is everything that we see all over social media right now, especially with all of our left-wing friends that we sit and interact with if we're not over on Parler. And at a time where every single agency, including the ones in California, are trying to defund the police. So, yes, this... the writers at Federal Apprentice just keep going above and beyond. But to an extent, we all actually knew that this was going to come too, so... Alright. Let's keep going off of this, but I'm going to save this article to put up into the morning, or the Monday chat rather. We have from CNN Politics, The Point with Chris Cillizza. Chris Cillizza has made an analysis as to here's why Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris as his VP. And if they don't make the point early on in this, I do have the tweet up as well that goes along with this, because they made the point right in the beginning, but I want to see what the article has to say. From CNN, Joe Biden thinks he's going to win the White House in 84 days' time. That's the unmistakable message he just sent after 4 p.m. Eastern Time, when, via text, his campaign announced that he had picked Senator Kamala Harris of California as his vice presidential nominee. Harris, who ran unsuccessfully for the Democratic presidential nomination earlier this year, had been the front-runner to be Biden's pick for months because, well, she simply made sense. Consider, she's been vetted on the national stage due to her own 2020 bid. She has experience in government, both as California AG and a U.S. Senator since 2017. Yeah, I would leave that out, Cillizza. I would leave that part out if I was me. After Tulsi Gabbard sunk her claws into Kamala Harris. At 55 years old, she represents a younger generation of leaders, something that Biden, who will be 78 on Inauguration Day 2021, said was a major factor in his choice. She is a historic pick as the first black and South Asian American woman to appear on a major party's national ticket. She's from California, a massive treasure trove of both Democrat votes and Democratic donors, which means popular vote. She emerged as an outspoken voice on race, the need for police reform. Bullshit. Following the death of George Floyd in May, as the subsequent protests it sparked around the country, there was no one else on Biden's VP shortlist that checked so many boxes. What's telling is that Biden and his team didn't feel the need to reach for a less predictable pick. They knew that picking Harris would draw considerable attention. It would also be the thing that most people expected them to do, despite the historic nature of putting Harris on a ticket. Biden and his advisors knew that selecting Harris might be described by some as unsurprising. Alright, they are not going into where I wanted to go off of this, so we're going to read the tweet back from CNN, which I will also save for Monday's show. Let's get this back loaded up here, because they're not even trying to hide the ball anymore. The tweet that went along with this article, that I pulled this article from, says, Joe Biden made the pick that maximized his chances of continuing to make the race a straight referendum on Trump while also selecting someone whose resume suggests being ready to step in if and when Joe Biden decides to step aside. They're not even hiding the ball of the fact that they are going to appoint this woman as a president. It's going to be an appointment. They don't want to have the elected official anymore. The first female president of the United States, if God forbid Joe Biden wins, is going to be a woman. That's the first, it's going to be appointed. That's where I was going with that. And they're not trying to hide the ball. This is somebody that they want to put in, that the DNC wants to have in place, because Joe Biden is an empty suit stand-in candidate to stand up and take the presidency because he's a safe pick. And then put this woman in that couldn't get 2% of the vote. So no. Don't even try and hide your bullshit on this, Cillizza. You know what? This one is so much bullshit. I'm not going to put this on the Monday itinerary. No, what? You know I am. Because this is going to remain the big news here, and Elaine is going to want to pick this one apart too. So we're going to hold on to that one here. Another one here from CNN. Sarah Palin offers advice and congratulations to Kamala Harris from Kate Sullivan. Former Republican vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin offered advice and congratulations to Senator Kamala Harris on Tuesday, shortly after the California Democrat was announced as former Vice President Joe Biden's running mate. Palin was on the ticket with Senator John McCain of Arizona in 2008, the second woman to be on the ticket of a major political party. When Harris accepts the nomination next week and the Democratic National Convention, she will become the third woman and the first Black and South Asian woman nominated for the role. Identity, 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 intersectionality, identity, 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 identity. Congratulations to the Democratic VP pick, Palin wrote in an Instagram post. Climb upon Geraldine Ferraro's and my shoulders, and from the most amazing view in your life, consider lessons we learned. In 1984, Democratic Rep. Geraldine Ferraro of New York was the first woman to be on the major party ticket. Man, oh man, the parallels just are all over there. Because that was the same year that they put the Mondale up, because he had no fucking chance of winning either. And he also put a woman up to be the first female president. And also to point out with this, from what Sarah Palin is saying, Sarah Palin was another, and I know people were ripping Sarah Palin apart for the fact that she was up there, but keep in mind the fact that John McCain was also ancient to a point that nobody thought that he could survive a first term of presidency with all the stress that comes from the job. We were also looking and seeing a possible President Palin at some point coming up out of this, which is a scary ass thought. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of this out here. I accept Palin's grace to Kamala Harris, because that couldn't have been an easy one to do. But moving on and looking into this here, there is no possible way with the political situation that we have with the police, law enforcement, and everything else in this country, that there's even a path forward for a Biden-Harris ticket to go forward unless there is massive voter fraud. I cannot see a path forward unless they sit back and let the mainstream media hide this woman's record, because it's out there. Tulsi Gabbard brought it out, and then they cut Tulsi Gabbard's mic off in the debates. There's a reason they don't want this information out there. All right, let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, Trump. If Biden can stand up and breathe, the media will say it's one of the greatest debate performances in history. From Hank Berrien. On Tuesday, radio host Hugh Hewitt conducted an interview with President Trump and asked him about prospective debates with the former Vice President Joe Biden. You know the way it is, the fake news, Trump said. If he stands up and he's able to breathe, if he's able to walk off the platform, they'll say it was one of the greatest debate performances in history. I'm going to go off and say that he's probably right on that one, too. Hewitt prompted Trump by asserting the expectation that the vice presidents are being lowered by the hour. I think that if he stands up for an hour, that'll lead the media to declare him a winner. I appreciate that you nominated me to be a moderator. I don't think the debate commission will give you anyone remotely close to being as tough on Biden as they are on you. Do you think that they're lowering expectations for Joe Biden for the debates? Trump answered, well, I'm not lowering expectations. Everyone else is. I'm not. I don't do that. Look, whoever shows up. I watched him with Bernie Sanders and he did okay. I wouldn't say he was Winston Churchill. Yes, he did, the host replied. But he got through, Trump continued. But you know, the way it is, the fake news, if he stands up, if he's able to breathe, if he's able to walk off the platform, they'll say it was one of the greatest debate performances in history. They said that already in this article. The fake news is corrupt. It's a disgrace. The worst, I tell you. And now it's rated lower than Congress. At least in my mind, it's rated lower than anything. But I've seen things from the fake news that someday I'll tell you some things you wouldn't even believe. These are corrupt people. So if he goes in debates, if he said, yes, I had a wonderful breakfast, thank you for asking the question, they'll say it was one of the greatest answers in history. Wow, it is exhausting doing the Trump voice. And he's right. He's absolutely 100% right on that. If Biden does, the media is going to run cover for Biden. They're going to come up and say, he's so graceful. He's so wonderful. Those stories about his hairy legs, they're so inspiring to all of us. And then when Trump actually lays down a policy prescription to something that he wants to do in his second term, it's going to be the evil orange dictator tells us how he wants to take over our lives. Our lives, I tell you. We must get rid of him, draw and quarter him, and put him in prison. Prison, I tell you. That's what the moderators and the mainstream media are going to do once the debates happen. All right, more election news here, keeping going on the same theme here. Ilhan Omar beats primary challenger in Minnesota. This comes to us via Politico by Ali Mutnick and Max Cohen. Representative Ilhan Omar on Tuesday fought off a well-funded primary challenger who accused her of pursuing national profile at the expense of her Minneapolis district. Omar defeated local lawyer Antone Melton Moe, who was backed by pro-Israel interests, angered by the freshman lawmaker's rhetoric and foreign policy stances. Omar led by 17 points when the Associated Press called the primary for the safe Democratic seat. One of four minority congresswomen elected in 2018, known as the Squad, Omar gained national attention for her Twitter clashes with President Trump. Dude, he didn't fight back. She just came out and started yelling names and slurs at the dude. Those weren't exactly Twitter clashes. She became a prominent voice in the progressive movement, but drew criticism over her comments on Israel that some deemed anti-Semitic. She once suggested that pro-Israel lawmakers had dual allegiances to both the U.S. and Israel, and that Israel had hypnotized the world. Throughout the campaign, Melton Moe presented himself as a unifier who could build consensus in Congress. He cast Omar as an out-of-touch politician, more interested in social media spats than delivering for her constituents. Pro-Israel interests funneled money towards Melton Moe, who raised a staggering $3.2 million in the second quarter. He used the windfall to outspend Omar on the air by a 2-to-1 margin. A top-spending super PAC with ties to pro-Israel group kicked in $1.5 million on TV ads to boost Omar. The Congresswoman's win is all the more impressive considering she was left largely unprotected by progressive groups who fixed on helping fellow Squad member Rashida Tlaib in her primary last week. Ilhan has fought for her constituents with courage and a positive progressive vision, Justice Democrats Executive Director Alex Rojas said in a statement. Despite all the manufactured hype and money spent attacking them, the Squad is winning, it's growing, and it's here to stay. I don't know, man. I think there's something fucky going on here with all these people, which means that all of the Squad members have won their primaries at this point. In a point where they're extremely unpopular, even in their own districts. Like Melton Moe said, Ilhan Omar hasn't done crap for her district. She just goes up onto the national stage and says, some people did something. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. I know that she cannot be investigated. I don't think while she's in Congress. Can she? Oh, no, she can be investigated for this, but she is funneling a lot of money through Tim Mynette's consulting firm, too. There is all kinds of funky stuff going on with this race and all the other races here. But we will see. Yeah, the only one out of the Squad that I could have actually pictured winning in the way that she did was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because Michelle Caruso Cabrera actually sucked and crumbled on the debate stage. So that's what we have going on here. Let's keep moving on down the list that we have here. I got a couple talking about the FBI investigation into the Steele dossier. Starting off with a tweet from E. the Friend. Trouble brewing for FBI Director Wray as declassified documents reveal he was responsible for arranging an Intelligence Committee briefing on the Steele dossier that contained at least 3 material misrepresentations. Lindsey Graham has subpoenaed all related materials, and we actually can see the subpoena here, which I'm not going to read up through this right now. This was up on Twitter. So, I mean, it's documented off of this here, and everything that comes along with this is please provide the name and position of each individual at the FBI who was involved in the drafting of the outline of the briefing for the Intelligence Committee that was declassified on August 7, 2020. And all documents and communications that were relied upon to draft that outline. 2, please provide the name and position of each individual at FBI who attended the briefing and the name and position of the primary briefer. And 3, please provide the documents and communications that outlined or were otherwise used by individuals at the FBI to brief congressional committees or members of the Congress regarding Crossfire Hurricane, the Steele dossier, or the Carter Page Files application. Thank you for your prompt attention to my request. So that's the information that he's looking for at this point. And let's see what the news has to say about this. From Fox News. And I got a back-to-back pair from Fox News, which I try not to do because they're so incredibly biased. And they're just as far in the tank for the left as everybody else at this point. But they were the only people that were talking about this. Why KT McFarland says FBI Director Christopher Wray, James Comey are in big trouble, from Caleb Park. FBI Director Christopher Wray and former FBI Director James Comey are both in big trouble, former Deputy National Security Advisor KT McFarland told America's Newsroom on Monday. McFarland, responding to the Senate Homeland Security Chairman Ron Johnson, was issuing the first subpoena to the FBI, and Wray, as it reviews the origin of the Russia investigation, says she believes they're also looking at the Mueller investigation in addition to possible wrongdoings or incompetence at the FBI. I think Christopher Wray is in big trouble for one of the 3 things, McFarland, the author of Revolution Trump, Washington, and We the People, told host Sandra Smith. Wray either knew what was going on in the FBI, and he uncovered it, and he kept it covered it up. Secondly, he didn't want to know, and so he just sort of, don't tell me, I don't want to know, or he's just completely incompetent, McFarland said. Either way, all 3 of these are pretty bad indictments against the current FBI director. McFarland says Comey, the FBI director prior to Wray, was also in big trouble because of recent testimonies from former Deputy AG Sally Yates, who claimed that Comey went rogue, and former Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein. In June, Rosenstein testified at the Senate Judiciary Committee that he would not have signed a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant for former Trump campaign aide Carter Page had he known about the since revealed misconduct surrounding those warrants, faulting the FBI for its handling of the document. Yeah, no, he wouldn't have rubber stamped the thing that he rubber stamps every fucking where else. Comey's got a lot to answer for, McFarland explained. Either he was rogue and was running a rogue operation in the FBI, or he's being set up to take the fall. McFarland pointed out former National Security Advisor Susan Rice wrote herself in a memo for the record on Inauguration Day saying President Obama wants everything done exactly by the books. So in other words, if Jim Comey does something that's not by the books, it's not on us. Johnson's subpoena, obtained by Fox News, demands that Wray produce all records related to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. So, yeah, we're going to see something off the FBI. Wouldn't it be nice if we saw the FBI disbanded completely? Wouldn't that be nice? I don't think it can happen because we do need somebody to enforce interstate commerce to go along with this, but wouldn't it be nice to see another federal agent go away, just not be there anymore? Another federal agency gone. Get rid of them. Fuck them. We don't need them. All right. I got another one here on the same story, and we'll see what we have going on with this. Senator Ron Johnson explains subpoena of FBI Director Wray. I finally ran out of patience. From Talia Kaplan. Senate Homeland Security Committee Chairman Ron Johnson said Tuesday that FBI Director Christopher Wray was subpoenaed as part of the committee's broad review into the origins of the Russia investigation because Johnson finally ran out of patience. Certainly, my committee granted me the subpoena authorization to try and get everybody's voluntary compliance, but it simply hasn't worked, Johnson told America's Newsroom. The FBI continues to slow walk our requests for documents, which really date back years. Johnson also added that he was sent a summary request to Attorney General William Barr, who, by the way, has been great. The hang-up isn't within the FBI, he continued, noting that on September 2019, the FBI was basically relisting all the requests we had for information, and we really haven't gotten squat. What we're seeing now is dribs and drabs. The subpoena issued Monday and obtained by Fox News demands that Wray produce all records related to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. This includes, but is not limited to, all records provided or made available to the Inspector General of the U.S. DOJ for its review, the subpoena states, referring to DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz's review of abuses related to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The subpoena also demands all records related to requests to the General Services Administration or the Office of the IG for the GSA for the presidential transition records from November 2016 to December of 2017. The FBI must provide these documents to the committee by August 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, according to the subpoena. So, I don't know how much of this is actually going to get out, how much of it we're actually going to see. I would love to see all of it at some point, but I don't know. But that's what we're seeing up out of the FBI. And since it looks like the live chat is talking about the same thing, let's go talk about Ghislaine Maxwell. So, from Josh Kaplan over on Twitter, tweets out Daily Mail, Ghislaine Maxwell taken off suicide watch in Brooklyn jail. Now, I was not able to verify that, the fact that she was taken off suicide watch. I wasn't able to verify that with something that's Green Check verified. It doesn't surprise me at this point, but I did find another article talking about the position that she was in and the complaints that she has about her her imprisonment rather, awaiting trial. So we are going to go back and talk about this instead until we have something that's Green Check verified on this. From Newsweek, Ghislaine Maxwell demands computer complains about suicide watch from Ayla Slisko. Yeah, and once again, everybody completely ignored the fact that they found out that Clinton was on Beto Island numerous times and was seen with numerous young ladies that went along with this, along with Prince Andrew. Nobody's talked about that either. This has been swept completely under the rug at this point. Lawyers for Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's alleged child sex trafficking co-conspirator, says she's being mistreated in prison as she awaits trial. Maxwell's lawyers, Mark Cohen and Christian Everdahl, alleged that she has been held in uniquely onerous conditions in a letter sent to the U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan on Monday. The lawyers asked Nathan to issue an order to move Maxwell out of solitary confinement in Brooklyn, New York's Metropolitan Detention Center, and be provided with access to a computer and materials related to the case. As a result of what occurred with Mr. Epstein, Ms. Maxwell is being treated worse than other similarly situated pretrial detainees, which significantly impacts her ability to prepare a defense and be ready for trial on the schedule set by the court. The lawyers wrote, since arriving at the MDC over a month ago on July 6, 2020, Ms. Maxwell has been held under uniquely onerous conditions. It's because they don't want her to fucking die. Ms. Maxwell has been confined alone in an outside area of the general population for the entire 36-day period. 40 days if we can include her confinement in New Hampshire, which is over 3 weeks longer than the 14-day quarantine period required for all new arrivals at the MDC under current COVID-19 protocols, and there's no indication that this will change, they continued. The lawyers added that Maxwell is being subjected to suicide watch protocols that include around-the-clock surveillance, having to wear special clothing, and being frequently woken up despite the fact that she, unlike Mr. Epstein, has never been suicidal and was never diagnosed as exhibiting risk factors for suicide. Officials ruled the suicide was the cause of Epstein's death last year in prison. Bullshit! Where he was awaiting his own sex crime trial. Maxwell's constitutional rights to participate in her own defense are also being jeopardized, according to the lawyers who insist that she's she'd be given significantly increased access to a computer terminal to review materials from the case. Don't you have an attorney to do that for you? I don't know about you, but especially if I was a foreign national, I would be having my attorney do that if it was me. Powered by NewsGuard. Ms. Maxwell does not seek special treatment at the MDC, the lawyers wrote, but she does ask that she not be specifically disfavored in her treatment in detention, especially when it comes to preparing her defense to conduct that allegedly took place that allegedly took place over 25 years ago. So, they are, at this point, talking about moving her to Gen Pop. That's another news article that I didn't put in the itinerary for today. But yes, she is getting uppity about the fact that they are keeping her in solitary up there. And I don't know, once again, if this is, like Sewell mentioned yesterday, the fact that she's in solitary because they don't want there to be witnesses when she does off herself. And she wants to be in Gen Pop because she wants to have the witnesses out there. Maybe she is out looking for her own survival. We don't know. But we'll see off of this. Alright, we just got a few more here, and then we'll do something that I'm thankful for, and we'll head on over to the Daily Ignoramus. So, from the Daily Wire, AG Barr responds to Seattle Police Chief's resignation following City Council cutting police funds from Ryan Saavedra. Attorney General William Barr responded to the Seattle Police Department Chief Carmen Best's abrupt decision to resign on Monday night, saying that her decision to resign was the result of irresponsible proposals to defund the police from state and local leaders. Best's resignation came after Democrat-controlled Seattle City Council voted on Monday to cut millions of dollars in funding from the police department and had targeted Best's salary, proposing cutting it by 40%. Best wrote on Twitter that her decision was not about the money, but was about the disrespect shown all SPD officers. The council gave us $1.6 million to hire the best, the brightest, and the most diverse. Now they want me to lay off 100 of these officers. I can't do that, Best wrote, adding, I don't want the people who work for me to be impacted by the animus directed towards me. The animus felt personal. And I don't usually read the transcripts on this one, or on the Daily Wire, but because the name of the article is Barr's response here, I do want to go through Barr's response here. Barr responded to Best's announcement Tuesday afternoon in a statement. I was disheartened to learn about the resignations of Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best. Her leadership and demonstrated commitment to her oath of office reflected all that was good about America's law enforcement. In the face of the mob violence, she drew the line in the sand and said enough. Working tirelessly to save lives, protect our offices, and restore stability to Seattle. Her example should be an aspiration to all who respect the rule of law and cherish safety and security in their communities. This experience should be a lesson to state and local leaders about the real cost of irresponsible proposals to defund the police. Best's resignation comes after the Seattle City Council announced it was cutting roughly $3 million from the budget, including cut 32 officers from patrol, reduce specialized unit, including officers assigned to mounted unit, school resource officers, Homeland Security, Harbor Patrol, and SWAT team. And the next time one of these fucked up nut jobs comes in with a gun and shoots up the school, the next thing they're going to say is, why wasn't there a resource officer in the school? Removed officers from navigation team, ensuring homeless neighbors are not re-traumatized by armed patrol officers. Reduced staff budget through recognizing expected attrition. Reduced administrative costs, including salaries, community outreach, public affairs. Cut $56,000 from training and travel expenses. Cut recruitment and retention. Transferred victim advocates from SPD to Human Services Department. Removed 2 sworn officers' positions from the 911 emergency call center. So yeah, I don't know what it is that they plan to do with this, but this is just going to make Seattle a much, much worse place to live. Because they're going to cut all of this out here, and they're not going to get rid of all the laws that go around this either. Because there are way too many laws out there. That's the reason we have so many cops. Get rid of the laws. And see how much more peaceful people are. Get rid of every law that doesn't have a direct victim to it. And see how much your crime goes down. But no, we're just going to cut the police officers and then everything will be fine. So AG Barr's right on the money here. And yeah, Carmen Best did her best. She did her best out there. I feel bad for anybody that lives in Seattle right now. Alright. From Fox News, Ben Shapiro responds to piece of garbage Reddit troll who tied him to a fake Antifa recruitment website from Yale Hanlon. Ben Shapiro responded Monday to the piece of garbage Reddit troll who launched a fake Antifa recruitment site using the conservative personality's personal information as part of a widely circulated smear campaign over the weekend. Addressing the incident on the Ben Shapiro Show, the conservative commentator said it was important to note how some people on the radical left act because it's a reminder of where we are in the country. So over the weekend, I started receiving all these bizarre emails from people just cursing me out, which is like kind of, like a normal weekend. My wife's a doctor, but a little more than a normal weekend because, by virtue of and people saying they want to join Antifa emailing me, Shapiro began. Then I realized yesterday that there's this rumor going around online that my wife's a doctor and I'm very rich. Yep, that's what the rumor's going around at. But there's the rumor going around online that I'm not kidding you that I started the Antifa recruiting website in order to catfish members of Antifa, and this rumor was so prevalent because my wife's a doctor. There are some big name people on the left who are putting out this rumor, in addition to idiots on Reddit. He explained. The fake site was created by a well-known leftist troll named Adam Rahuba, who embedded Shapiro's name and professional email address into the source code, framing him as the creator, the Post-Millennial reported. While false origins of the site began to circulate on Reddit, the Lincoln Project, a headline-grabbing anti-Trump political action committee, amplified the HOA on Twitter, which was quickly shared by big names of the left, Shapiro explained. Everyone on the left apparently bought into this, he said. I started getting inundated with text and emails, and it turns out, obviously, my wife's a doctor, that it was a prank by some Reddit idiot, Adam Rahuba. Rahuba claimed responsibility for the hoax Monday morning, tweeting, "Here's your message from the leader of Antifa. There is no leader of Antifa. There is no organization to join." Well, that's what we're seeing up out of this. And I wanted to get to this yesterday, but I completely looked over this when I was building up the show for yesterday. But yeah, this is just stupidity off of this here. And I thought it was funny either way. Alright, let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, speaking of Ben Shapiro, Chicago prosecutor dismissed thousands of felony cases, including gun crimes cases, from Emily Zanotti. Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx pledged Monday to bring the dozens of looters and rioters who did a reported $60 million in damages Sunday night to justice. But a new report from Chicago Tribune calls into question Foxx's commitment to seeing certain felony cases through. According to the Tribune, Foxx's office has dismissed thousands of felony cases, including gun cases, sex assault cases, attacks on police officers, and even homicides. In all, 25,183 people had their felony cases dismissed, per the Trib. The Tribune found that Foxx's higher rates of dropped cases included people accused of murder, shooting another person, sex crimes, and attacks on police officers, as well as serious drug offenses that for decades have driven much of Chicago's street violence, the outlet said. For the 3-year period analyzed, Foxx's office dropped 8.1% of homicide cases. Under Foxx, the office dropped 9.5% of felony sex crimes cases. The Tribe notes, Foxx's office also increased the rate of dropped cases for aggravated battery and aggravated battery with a firearm, and under Foxx, the percentage of cases dropped for defendants accused of aggravated battery of a police officer more than doubled, from 3.9% to 8.1%. The dropped cases, of course, include that of Jussie Smollett, who inked an unofficial plea deal with Foxx's office just weeks before being charged with 17 counts of lying to police officers, stemming from Smollett's claim that he was the target of a racist and homophobic attack in Chicago's Streeterville neighborhood in January of 2019. You remember that story? Because that was only almost 2 years ago. And it seems like it was 20 years ago. A special prosecutor recently reinstated several of those counts and investigation into Foxx's office and into why the city prosecutor suddenly reversed her decision on Smollett's case is ongoing. Smollett was supposed to return to court in May, but that date has been postponed over concerns about coronavirus. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. They're going back and re-prosecuting some of the stuff, and yeah, it may be time to get rid of Kim Foxx. Because it seems like she's going up there and trying to do special interest. Alright. From Fox, defund the police message in DC, mural being repaved from Frank Miles. In June, Black Lives Matter activists painted defund the police on a street near the White House a day after the mayor of the nation's capital unveiled a Black Lives Matter mural that spanned the same 2-block stretch of road. Workers with the city's Department of Public Works, which helped arrange the original work, refreshed the paint the next day. Still, they left the message now reading Black Lives Matter equals defund the police. But on Tuesday, the added statement, seen by some as anti-police, was removed. Experts warn against eliminating police forces altogether, but noted that not all advocates seem to be pushing for a total teardown. Some simply want major reforms, and others want more emphasis on community programs. Some defunding advocates say taxpayer dollars could be better used for community projects like housing, jobs, schools, health services that address social inequality. They question whether a larger police presence actually makes communities safer. Black Lives Matter Plaza turns up in driving directions from Google Maps. The Black Lives Matter movement emerged from over the acquittal of George Zimmerman, the Florida man who shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin in 2012. The phrase itself was coined shortly thereafter as a social media hashtag by 3 black women, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, and Patrisse Cullors. Soon it was heard widely at protests. So, yeah, at this point here, they're repaving up over this because they just nominated a cop to be the vice presidential pick. And that's not going to go. That's not going to go well at all, given the fact that now they want to go out and defund the police after they have the cop up there. So, yeah, no, the Antifa thing, it served its purpose. They're going to start throwing it out the side of the SUV and moving along with life. Same with BLM. They serve their purpose. People are starting to get sick of them, so they're going to start throwing them out there. And people want the law and order. So honestly, I think this Kamala Harris thing is going to put a deeper fissure in the Democrat Party. One that's not going to be overcome by their hatred for Donald Trump. Alright. Last one here before I do a thing that I'm thankful for. I've got one from The Blaze that came to me over in the Discord from Sparta, who was in the chat earlier and last night. Neighbor reportedly rushes 5-year-old boy playing outside, puts a gun to his head, and executes him. From Sarah Taylor. A 5-year-old boy is dead after a man in Wilson, North Carolina reportedly ran up to the child while he was playing in a neighborhood street and fatally shot the child in the head. According to a report from WRAL-TV, the shooting took place on Sunday. Cannon Hinnant was playing outside his father's house on the dusky summer evening when the neighbor, 25-year-old Darius N. Sessoms, charged Cannon, produced a handgun, and shot him in the head. The child's 7-year-old and 8-year-old siblings witnessed the murder. First responders came to the scene and transported the little boy to Wilson Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. Doris LeBrant, a neighbor, said she witnessed Sessoms running to Cannon, putting the gun to his head and firing the weapon before fleeing the scene into his own home. She couldn't believe her eyes. My first reaction was he's playing with the kids, she recalled. For the second, I thought this couldn't happen. People don't run across the street and kill kids. LeBrant said the situation became all too real when she saw the child's father react to the horrific scene. Authorities took Sessoms into custody Monday night and charged him with first-degree murder. He's being held at the Wilson County Jail without bond. Authorities have not yet determined the motive in the shooting, but insisted the killing wasn't random, as Sessoms was reportedly friendly with Cannon's father. A GoFundMe page was set up to benefit the family, has raised at least $5,577 at the time of this reporting. I will find this GoFundMe. I've got it right here, so I will save this, and I will put this up in the Discord and up on my Twitter, and I would hope that you guys will throw a couple bucks to that, if you could, please. That would be awesome of you. Please do that. Christine Prezosio, a cousin of the family, created the page writing, "A beautiful 5-year-old baby boy was riding his bicycle. Was shot by his neighbor point blank in Wilson, North Carolina. One minute he's enjoying his life, the next it all ends because he rode into his neighbor's yard. She wrote, 5-year-old guys. Nothing prepares a parent for the loss of their child. No child should ever have their future stolen from them. As of now, the person involved is still hiding like the coward he is. Prayers that he is found soon and justice can begin. I'm starting this GoFundMe to help with funeral expenses and help along the way for both Cannon's mother and father with permission. If you can help in any way, please do. So yes, I'm actually going to open this up right now so we can see it, because this is going to go in the description of this video and the audio that accompanies it. It will be in the Discord in a pinned dedicated link. Make sure you guys go off and do this. And it will go onto my Twitter as well. So yeah, if you guys could throw a couple bucks that way, that would be awesome. I intend to do so as well. So let's do that. All right. And after something so horrific for this, we're going to do something I'm thankful for. The optics are terrible on the show, I know. All right. Last one that I have here comes from CNN. S&P 500 falls short of new record high from Anakin Tape. The S&P 500 is so close to a new record high, its first since the pandemic hit and exceeding its all-time high from February. The stock index fell short of a new peak on Tuesday, but remains just an arm's length away. A new all-time high in the next few days would mean that it took Wall Street less than 5 months to go from nadir to new record. And if that happens, it would make the 2020 bear market the shortest in history. The magic closing numbers for the S&P 500 is 33.8515. The index closed down 0.8% on Tuesday, reversing earlier gains and falling just over 50 points, ending the day about 1.5% short of its milestone. Even so, the S&P could reach that level within the next few days. Folks, the American people are ready to get out and go back to work. Yes, you see your progressives out on the street that's saying that we need to stay shut down forever. Michigan is trying to throw their economy stay shut down forever. New York is trying to throw the economy stay shut down forever. These big, huge economies in the country are ready to stay shut down forever, throw the economy, and make sure that the Democrats win this coming up election because Orange Man bad. And the American people are ready to go to work. And they're throwing investments out of there. And think about what you can do with these investments. In addition to what they're going to do, hiring workers, everything else. When you start throwing investments like this out of this, you're going to start to see some of these companies look at the tax code. We're seeing it with Elon Musk. We're seeing it with Joe Rogan. They're going to start looking at the tax codes in places like New York and California, Illinois, Michigan. And they're going to start saying, fuck this, and get the hell out of there. And they'll have the money to do so because the investors are buying and selling. They're driving these stock prices up. They're buying and selling left and right, investing in these companies, giving them the opportunity to do so. The American people are ready to get out and get the economy open, get back to work, and get back to normalcy. This whole political thing that I do, it seems like it's pervasive into every part of our economy and every part of our world and every part of our internal lives at this point, but it's really not. And what we're seeing out of the stock market kind of proves that. It kind of proves that the people just want to go back to a sense of normalcy, want to go back to everything, want to go back to work, want to provide for their families, want to buy that 2-story in suburbia. And that's what I'm thankful for, the American spirit, the American dream, that no progressive agenda can take away. So that's what we're seeing out of this, just in time to end the Instagram stream because I just got the 30-second warning off of this. So we will take the time and say goodbye to Instagram. If you guys want to check out the rest of the video or see the visual aids that go with it, go ahead and hit the link in my description and head on over to the YouTube channel and subscribe over there. We do this every morning, every weekday morning, so come on and check us out. And we will see you next time. And now for the rest of the viewership here, I also want to thank you guys for coming over and checking us out here. We will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary. I'm going to call the gaming for the week because after that great stream I had last night, funny enough, I had all the adrenaline pumping and I couldn't sleep, so I was up until 1, and I'm just going to come home tonight and get some dinner and go to bed. Maybe I'll throw one together tomorrow, but probably not, just because Thursday night leads me up into an early Friday morning, which then I have to come back, get into bed right away because I work early on Saturday morning. Maybe I will do it Thursday night. I don't know, but I'm not going to do it tonight. So We will see you tomorrow morning with more contemporary because we surely are going to have a lot more news to come out of this. I'm going to head on over and hang out with Stephen Ignoramus for a little bit before I go start making breakfast. And we will see you tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.